A month of eating like a polite apocalypse and lifting like gravity owed me money, and my body turned into a contract. I don't mean I got big. I mean the scale climbed like a stock chart on Scandal, my clothes tapped out, my reflection started looking like, what if a panther walked upright and paid taxes? And beneath all that, some clause I didn't read out loud took effect. 200 kilograms. Not a goal, a rule. The first weeks were simple in that stupid, monastic way I secretly love. Wake, weigh in, eat, train, eat, build, eat, patrol, eat, sleep, if the engine agreed. Repeat. New Terra paraded on the wall screen with curated smiles and clean fonts, and my doorbell stayed quiet because the island and I had a new understanding about visitors. Announce yourself or accidentally meet the birdhouses with consequences. The assessment team didn't come back. Good. Mara's apology bought her future courtesy. It didn't buy her a key. On the 10th day, I hit 85 kilos and laughed because I still looked like a normal fighter who knew a good deli. On the 15th, I was 112, and the mirror said, "High shoulders." My traps peaked like shy mountains. My lats tried to learn wing. Mom started buying fruit by the crate. Bruce filmed me deadlifting in the yard and then deleted it because we both agreed there's no upside to going viral in the era of blue logos and doctrinarian smiles. "Eat," Wendy said. Like a battle drum, every time I sat down. "You're growing a myth." "I'm growing a solution," I corrected, cheeks full. "The myth is just the packaging." By the 20th day, the scale read 150. I didn't bloat, I didn't puff, I sharpened. My skin thinned over striations like topographic maps. The mirror kept trying to make me cocky, and I kept telling it to fuck off. Vanity's fine. Stupidity is not. Food became a ritual that would make a dietitian cry happy, terrified tears. I ate like a builder, not a glutton. Oily fish, obscene amounts of rice, beef that remembered it had been a cow, eggs by the dozen, enough vegetables to keep my gut from rioting, 2 oceans of water, salt like it meant something. The hunger burned steady but not cruel. It felt like a furnace that had finally been fed the right wood. Total adaptation took every rep, every chew, every breath, filed it under permanent, and moved the line forward. I trained like the bar was a question, and I was tired of being polite. Deadlifts. 5 plates, 6, 7, 8. Add bands. Use a trap bar. Switch to a deficit pull. Laugh quietly into my forearm when the lockout felt inevitable. Bench, pause singles that used to be fantasy now felt like grammar. Close grip for triceps, wide for indignation, dumbbells when the bar bored me. Cables until my chest fibers sang names I didn't know. Squats, high bar, low bar, front. Zerkers for the demon in my elbows. Beltless because I wanted my core to talk back. Box squats to force depth, pause squats to force honesty, breathing squats to force religion into a man who doesn't believe. Bicep curls because vanity is a form of kindness. Hammer curls until the brachialis introduced itself. Forearm work until jar lids everywhere trembled. Carries, farmers, suitcase, waiter. The island paths became my yoke walk. I hauled plates in each hand until my traps wrote dirty poetry. I added sprints when the engine wanted fire, swims when the heat begged forgiveness, rucked the perimeter with plates strapped to a vest when I got bored and wanted to feel like an armored mule. All of it took. None of it slipped. I'd sleep, wake, and yesterday's work would be right there, like muscle memory had been welded into place. Somewhere in the middle of that, New Terra consolidated as if bureaucracy were a sport. The old flags came down on the TV and were folded into a montage that made me itch. Their test vans, sleek, blue, the kind of soft design that hides hard edges, rolled through cities collecting cheek swabs and compliance. The talking heads were consistent about a few phrases. 100% accurate. Civic harmony. Equitable allocation. Doctrines of unity. That last one made Wendy spit tea. "Doctrines are just rules wearing church clothes," she said. "You be careful with those people, Danny." "I'm careful with everyone," I said, and meant it. By the 30th day, I stepped on my industrial scale, because bathroom scales had long since given up, and it read 200.0 kilograms. I blinked. Stepped off, stepped on. 200.0. I laughed because the number was absurd and right, and because the island had opinions. "Congrats, Muscle Gargoyle," Bruce called, leaning in the doorway with his phone he absolutely wasn't using to take secret photos. "You're officially a refrigerator." "Shut up," I said, grinning so hard it hurt. I flexed because we're children sometimes. "Feel," he poked my arm and swore. "That's not legal." Mom appeared with a bowl of sliced mango like a wizard. Eat. Mom, I just hit 200. And I'm not hungry, for once. That was new. The furnace had dimmed. The gnawing turned into a purr. Maintenance mode. She said, as if she had installed the firmware. Good. Eat anyway. I did, because I'm not stupid. The next morning, I weighed in at 200.0. After training, 200.0. Before bed, 200.0. It didn't matter if I ate a feast or underate or sweated out 2 liters in the sauna. The number held. I tried to break it because of course I did. Day 32. Fasted 18 hours, drank black coffee, trained light, weighed in, 200.0. Day 33. Ate like a war crime, trained heavy, slept 10 hours because my body demanded it, weighed in, 200.0. Day 34. Sauna and cold plunge until I felt like indecision, weighed in wet, towel dry, bone dry like a lunatic, 200.0 every time. This is ridiculous, I told the mirror. The mirror agreed. The mirror has awful taste. Dad walked in, glanced at the readout, then at me. Fixed point? Looks like it, I said. I can't go over. I can't go under. I'm pegged. He nodded slowly. A man taking a measurement of a variable that won't budge. You always wanted a body that refused entropy. Not like a fucking cosmic scale reading, I said. But my grin made it clear. I wasn't mad. I felt safe. Permanent. Like the meat had signed a truce with time and my stupid dreams about building heaven had gained a new, heavier hammer. That night, after patrol and laughter and a game of cards, Wendy won by cheating with eye contact. The sword came. I didn't hear it. I felt it. The way you feel thunder without hearing it. The way your bones decide they're tuning forks for a frequency you didn't invite. I was in the workshop, hands on the exo hand, which now looked dainty in my grip, which is hilarious and awful, adjusting the servo damping when the room breathed differently. The air crisped. The lights dimmed. Not power loss. More like respect. My arm hairs stood up. A low, zinging pressure rolled over my skin like a cat rubbing against your shins, affectionate and electric. Ugh, I said to the room, very eloquent. The drones in the corner lifted 2 centimeters and hung there as if they were trying to make themselves taller. The inverter hum harmonized with something I couldn't hear. The island, my stubborn, beautiful machine, made space. And then there it was, hanging in the middle of my shop like gravity had taken a smoke break. A sword, impossible, exact, alive. I've seen weapons. I've made tools that can be violent if you ask them wrong. This wasn't steel. This wasn't matter pretending not to be light. This was light, captive and contemptuous of the cage that convinced it to stay put. A blade of lightning, blue so blue it punched holes in the night behind it, veins of white crackling under a glass-smooth surface that wasn't glass. Crossguard swept like a smile you don't trust. Grip wrapped in something that looked like leather but felt like charged air braided into form. Pommel a point of quiet star. It was the exact sword I'd seen online in an artist's render years ago. But that's a lie, because this wasn't render. It wasn't a picture. It was a presence. It hummed at a frequency my teeth recognized. It dared me. That's the only verb that fits. It dared me to touch it. Danny? Mom's voice from the hallway. Why did the kitchen lights? Oh. She stopped in the doorway behind me, then stepped in with the cautious dignity of a nurse walking into a room where someone is dying. Not of fear, but of drama. Dad came up behind her and stared. Bruce shoved past like a toddler and swore softly. Wendy didn't enter. She posted up in the frame like the world had delivered her a long-awaited plot twist. Do not touch that, Mom said instantly. I wasn't going to, I lied reflexively, already moving half a step closer. Don't touch that, she repeated, stabbing each word into my skull. It looks like a lawsuit. It looks like a boss fight drop, Bruce whispered, eyes huge. Holy shit, it's beautiful. He was right. It was beautiful in a way that made me mad, like whoever made it understood how to seduce a mind like mine. It was engineering and menace wearing the same dress. Dad walked around it slowly, hands clasped, respectful. No visible suspension, no power source, no heat haze, though I can feel it, he said, rubbing his forearms. Field lines, electrostatic, but not like anything I've seen. Wendy chuckled low. It came because you finally weigh enough to swing it. That's not funny, Mom snapped. It's a little funny, I said, unable to stop the smile. The thing thrummed in my chest like a tuning fork hitting bone. I feel like it's talking. What's it saying? Dad asked. Hold me. the thing said, in a language that wasn't words and absolutely carried meaning. Hold me, I translated, and shivered because saying it out loud made my skin pebble. It's daring me. Then don't, Mom said. Walk away. We don't need more miracles in this house. Miracles are just physics that learned to be smug, I murmured. Danny, she warned. I tore my gaze off the blade and faced them because love outranks curiosity, even when curiosity is pulling your hand with invisible fishhooks. Listen, I said. If this thing is what I think it is, indestructible alive mine, then I have to test it. But I'll be smart. I'll put it outside. I'll ground the area. You'll what? Bruce cut in, not mocking, just hungry on my behalf. You'll hold a lightning sword and hope your adaptation does its thing? That's fucking metal. Language, Mom said to both of us automatically. She grasped my forearm, her fingers barely encircling it now, which made both of us blink. Promise me you won't be stupid. I'm full, I said softly. Stupidity doesn't fit. She rolled her eyes because my jokes are a coping mechanism and she's fluent in me. Dad? Dad met my gaze. I can't stop you. I don't want to. I want you to be the man you already are, only alive at the end of it. I plan on it, I said, and turned back to the thing that had chosen my workshop like a cathedral. We prepped. I moved the welding rig out, rolled the heavy rubber mats in, killed the non-essential power, grounded the work table with cables as thick as my thumb. The sword didn't care. It hung there, humming, smug as a cat, blue kissing the walls with light. Outside, then, I decided, because if I was going to get stupid, I'd do it under the sky. We stepped into the courtyard, the stone warm, the air thick with sea. The sword followed me without moving. That's the only way I can explain it. It didn't drift. It didn't float. It was wherever I needed it to be, so that I could never say I would've, but logistics. I stood 10 feet away from it. 5. 1. It hovered at chest height, blade up, point a whisper below my eye line. The hum resolved into something like a chord in my ribs. My hands prickled. My tongue tasted metal. It's going to be fine, I lied efficiently to everyone, including myself. Wendy cackled. You're about to be very educated. Mom squeezed my shoulder so hard it would have bruised a mortal. If you die, I will kill you. Fair, I said. The sword waited. I lifted my right hand. For the record, I didn't lunge. I didn't snatch. I reached like you reach for a new tool you respect. Slow, fingers open, ready to pull back if it spat. The grip looked textured, lightning braided into crosshatch. It didn't smoke. It didn't spit. It was there. Hey, I whispered to a weapon, because of course I did. If you're mine, be kind. My fingers closed. For one breath, it fit me. It belonged. The hum canceled the world. The blue was inside my eyes like a sunrise I'd swallowed. I felt circuits I didn't have light up and say hello. I felt pathways through the air the way birds must feel pressure when they bank. I felt power in a way that didn't make me drunk. It made me lucid. Then it killed me. Not because it hated me, because it was itself and I was not ready. Lightning, real lightning, not theatrical, doesn't zap. It detonates along the path of least resistance and then decides your definition of least wasn't ambitious enough. The sword delivered a lesson directly into my atomized syllabus. The world became white. White like magnesium. White like the inside of a bulb. White that wasn't color but erasure. I had time, half a thought, to think, fuck, this is gonna hurt, and adapt and tell Mom I love. And then there wasn't a me. No heat, no pain. No slow, dramatic fall to my knees. The island didn't get a body to cradle. The courtyard didn't get gore. The sword sang a note that rattled the air and I disintegrated. I mean, the literal physics. There were constituent pieces of me arranged in a coherent pattern. And then there weren't. Total adaptation didn't have a mouth to say, wait. I ceased. I don't know how long nothing lasted. If you've never been nothing, congratulations. I don't recommend it. Time is a property of arrangements. Without arrangements, you're an anecdote. And then, out of the air above the scorched stone where I'd stood, a cell appeared. Just one. Naked to the eye and yet not invisible, like the universe decided to break scale rules for the sake of poetry. A tiny bag of instructions winked into being and hung there, bold, trembling, greedy. It split. When I came back, I woke up in my own thunder. It wasn't a gentle rise to surface. It was like a trillion whispers decided to agree on hello at once. The world swam in a saturated blue I could taste, and the first breath I took felt like oxygen had been upgraded while I was gone. I lay there on warm stone in the courtyard, eyes open to a sky that had the nerve to be ordinary, and catalogued the facts. I was alive. I was whole. I weighed 200 kilos, I knew it the way you know your name, and I didn't hurt. Anywhere. "Hey, asshole," Bruce said thickly from somewhere above me, and then his shadow cut the sun. His eyes were red. "If you ever do that again, I'm staging an intervention with a taser." "You'd need a bigger taser," I croaked, and my voice sounded like me but tuned lower, cleaner. "Water?" Mom's face slid into view, fierce and wet. "Don't move," she ordered, then immediately slid an arm under my head and tilted a bottle to my mouth like I was 5. The water hit my tongue and my whole body said yes. There was a taste that wasn't taste. Ozone, rain on copper, the first breath after lightning. Dad knelt by my legs, hand on my ankle like he was grounding a live cable. "We kept watch," he said. "You've been busy." "How long?" My lips felt weirdly precise. Every little fiber in my mouth gave reports. "Almost 3 months," Wendy said, somewhere to my left, voice bright and hard like a clean blade. "You were groceries the first week, then soup, then a lumpy casserole, then something recognizable. Only took you, 90 days to remember you were a person." I let out a breath that wasn't a laugh but wanted to be. My body hummed, not a metaphor. A literal hum, like an electric substation scaled to fit under skin. My chest rose, my ribs flexed, and it felt like every tiny motion had been oiled and aligned by a very attentive God. I propped myself on my elbows. Everyone reached to stop me. I shook my head. "I'm okay," I said, and knew it. Not bravado, not denial. Data. My systems were online with redundancy. My nervous system pulsed, crisp and bright, and quiet in one way that made the hair on my arms lift. Pain. Didn't check in. There were signals, pressure, temperature, texture, the whole orchestra of sensation, but that grim violin that had always hovered ready to scream if something tore? Missing, not muted, absent. The dashboard light wasn't burned out. The car didn't have that circuit anymore. "Don't be a hero," Mom said, reading my face like a chart. "If you feel dizzy—" "I feel clean," I said slowly, "like someone defragged me." Bruce snorted. "Nerd." "Accurate nerd," I said. I sat up fully, then stood. The motion was nothing. My toes kissed stone and reported warm, rough, friendly. My calves flexed and offered force like a promise. My core held like a ship's mast. I rolled my neck. Joints didn't pop. They glided. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "Your hair." "What about—" I reached up and brushed my head, and sparks snapped under my fingers like playful snakes. I plucked a lock into view. Aqua blue. Not dyed. Not dyed. Not a trick of light. The color had depth, like there were tiny currents under each strand. As I watched, a thin filament of lightning crawled from root to tip and popped, harmless as laughter. "Oh," I said, "that's new." "No shit," Bruce said, openly grinning now. "You look like a sea storm had a baby with an anime protagonist." "Language," Mom said on int, but she was smiling too, helplessly. "Relief does that." Dad was studying me the way he studies a puzzle he secretly enjoys. "You're different through the shoulders," he said. "You were dense, powerful. Now you're—" "Streamlined," I supplied, turning my forearms in the light. He was right. I wasn't bulkier. I'd kept the 200 kilos, every gram accounted for, but the distribution had shifted. Lines were cleaner. Muscle bellies sat like sculpted cables, no puff, no wasted swell. I looked like I'd been designed by someone who cared about drag coefficients. Wendy tapped my shin with her cane. "Walk." I did. 10 steps across stone, 10 back. Feet rolled silent, hips stacked perfectly, nothing wandering. I jogged, then stopped on a dime, then balanced on one foot and closed my eyes. My inner ear updated me with a fidelity that felt illegal. I could feel wind as vectors on skin. I could map the courtyard by the way air moved around columns. "Vitals," Mom demanded, already thumbing her watch app. She'd logged my not-quite-death like a scientist. While I'd been soup, she'd tracked the growth with the kind of focus that scares medical charts. I touched my wrist to her reader out of habit. The data appeared, heart rate low and steady, oxygen saturation absurd, body temp a fraction high like I was a reactor by choice. Blood pressure textbook. No pain markers because, again, I didn't register pain. Mom frowned. "We'll have to talk about that. Pain is information. Without it—" "It's not that I can't tell if I'm damaged," I said, and it was true as I said it, a thing I could feel. "It's that the alarm got replaced with a dashboard. I know if I'm torn or overheated, I just don't suffer about it." Bruce whistled. "You got the deluxe model." You got a mouth, I said. Congratulations. He flipped me off affectionately. The courtyard bore the evidence of my death. A blackened circle etched into the stone like a saint's halo turned rude. Around it, the garden was healthy. Birds hopped in the bougainvillea like idiots. The sword was nowhere. My stomach didn't lurch at that. It simply woke. Some certainty that didn't come from logic tightened in my chest. I knew where it was, the way you know where your hand is when your eyes are closed. Can you feel it? Dad asked quietly. I nodded once. I can call it. Mom grabbed my elbow like a clamp. Absolutely fucking not. That got a bark laugh out of me. Language, she glared. Then her face cracked. I watched you die, baby. Humor is not the correct setting. I'm not trying to be funny, I said, gentler. I'm telling you I learned something while I was reorganizing. Wendy's eyes were bright with mischief no storm could drown. Oh, let the boy have his toy, but do it over the sand. And if he explodes again, I get his workshop. Over my dead, Mom started, then stopped, cursed, and threw her hands up. Fine, but if you pop, I'm going to be so mad at your dust. We walked to the beach. The path down from the courtyard felt like a runway. I knew how heavy I was with the kind of certainty that should be impossible. The sand shifted under my feet, and my ankles whispered micro-adjustments before the thought formed. Waves walked in and bowed. The sky was a clean blue, almost mocking my hair with its attempt to compete. The wind smelled like salt and a memory of storms. I took a breath, turned my palms up, and reached into that space in me that wasn't space. The sword came like a thought. I didn't have to think twice. No flash. No dumb theatrics. A line of blue drew itself in the air ahead of my hand, crossguard sketching in, grip condensing like frost on an idea, that soft hum resolving in my bones like a chord resolving to tonic. It was there, exactly where my hand wanted it to be. I caught it. For a sliver of a second, I braced for pain out of habit. Nothing bit. The contact felt like sliding into a handshake with an old rival you've decided to be civil with. The grip was textured not by leather, but by tiny, stitched currents. The blade sang, and my nervous system answered, present. I tested the weight, and my brain said 200 kilograms with the same bored confidence it uses for 10 fingers. The blade didn't fight its mass with magic. It was its mass. I could feel the inertia of every atom of lightning choosing to behave like matter. It should have dragged me down. 200 kilos at arm's length is a joke, except not funny. It didn't feel light. It felt mine. Jesus, Bruce breathed. It's real. It's really. Holy fuck, Mom corrected, hands on her hips, eyes locked on me like she could keep me together with glare alone. Dad's mouth tilted, that not-quite smile he gets when something clicks. 200 to meet 200, he said, elegant. The system likes symmetry. I shifted my stance, set my left foot forward, and brought the sword into a guard I'd only ever seen on screens. It wasn't a style I'd studied, but my hands knew angles my head hadn't rehearsed. The blade's balance was weird because lightning, but also perfect because lightning. The hum nested just under hearing. My hair crackled. A tiny thread arced from a lock to the blade and stitched itself into the glow. I took one step and cut. The blade moved like an answer. It wrote a precise blue line through air, and the air noticed. The slipstream had shape. Sand hissed where the edge passed over it, little grains charging and popping like private fireworks. I didn't exert. I aligned. The sword rewarded alignment with obedience. My shoulders stayed low, my hips turned, my core dropped, and the weight, absurd real, didn't fight me because I didn't fight it. I set the flat against my forearm and felt the 200 kilos press like a heavy, patient animal. My tendons sang under it, not in warning, but in praise. Stop, Mom said, and I stopped. She stepped forward, hand trembling, and put 2 fingers against the blade. Tiny sparks danced between her skin and the light. She didn't flinch. Is it hot? No, I said. It's exactly as warm as me. Gross, Bruce noted. Accurate, I said. Dad walked a slow circle around me, eyes scanning like LiDAR. How's your breath? Heart? Calm, measured, slightly obsessed. I exhaled and put the tip down into the sand. It sank 2 centimeters and stopped with an authority that told the earth who was in charge. I died, I said quietly, because the sentence had been waiting to be spoken to the ocean. And then I didn't. We stood there with that, letting it weigh what it weighed. Your pain, Mom said at last, back to business. Say it again. It's not there as pain, I said. I can feel everything. If I tear a fiber, I know where, how many, what direction the rupture ran. If I overheat, there's a scale in my head that ticks up and I can watch it, change it. If pressure builds, if a joint is misaligned, if a nerve is pinched, there's readout, not alarm. And if you cut yourself? She pushed. I turned the blade, set the edge against my forearm, and drew a careful, shallow line. The skin parted. No sting. No flinch. A red thread welled, and then knit shut as if a dozen tiny hands were sewing from the inside out. The blood beaded and vanished, the line smoothed. Mom closed her eyes for a heartbeat, then opened them shining. I hate it, she said, which in Diana speak means I love that you're safe and I hate that the rules I know have been set on fire. You will have to be disciplined. Pain teaches fools. You don't get that leash. I'll be a monk, I said. You'll be my son, she said. Which is worse? Wendy cackled. You look like yourself, just distilled. And the hair is fabulous. Don't let Nutera see you. They'll write a sermon. Nutera. The name was a bruise, not painful, but tender with warning. While I'd been reforming, their blue vans and gentle doctrinarians had multiplied. Their doctrines of unity became school recitations. Their assessment centers became civic hubs. Their cute speeches dropped the word mandatory like a pebble and waited for ripples. The feeds ran footage of smiling civilians being issued smart IDs and assigned harmonized obligations. The world adjusted, unevenly, grudgingly, but it adjusted. And me and mine? We were still registered as civilians, 100% ordinary according to their 100% accurate test. Do we tell them? Dad asked softly, asking me and asking himself. Absolutely not. Mom said before breath returned to anyone else. They can test my left toe. They'll come back eventually, Bruce said. Mara wasn't a one-shot. They can come back with cake and a printed apology, I said. We'll keep smiling, we'll be boring, I'll wear a hat. Wendy jabbed my calf again. Train. Yes, ma'am, I said. I dismissed the sword with a thought the way I'd summoned it, and it vanished with the offensive elegance of a cat leaving a room it had improved by existing. My hand tingled where the grip had been. I felt heavier without it, in the way you feel after setting down a backpack you forgot you were wearing. Not relief, absence. Over the next days, my new normal drew itself like architectural lines. I logged everything. Resting metrics, output curves, microtiers and their repair times, thermal load at different intensities, how the blade's 200 kilos interacted with my 200 kilos in various planes. I built drills around that symmetry. Weighted flows that would have murdered a sane spine now felt like the equivalent of learning to waltz with an anvil that wanted to lead. The trick was never to resist. It was to agree in advance. Deadlifts became a different conversation when your nervous system doesn't scream. I added constraints. Tempo pulls, pauses at knee, slow eccentrics, breath holds on precise counts. Without pain as a speed governor, you drive by instrument. Angles, time under tension, force output, tissue temperature. It sounds sterile. It felt like poetry with metrics. Bench with the sword? Don't be an idiot. But presses with the blade in one hand, counterbalanced with chain on the other, built lines into my obliques I could pluck like strings. Squats, holding the sword vertically like a mast, taught my entire posterior chain to negotiate with a storm. I learned that the blade didn't cut what I didn't want it to. Not can't. Didn't. Intent mattered. I could move through the workshop with it, and it wouldn't bite the cords, wouldn't nick the table, wouldn't feather my cheek even if the edge brushed it. But when I wanted it to be cruel, it was physics with fangs. At night, the island slept, and my hair sparked gentle blue as I lay on my back and stared at the ceiling fan. Mom would text from 2 rooms away because we're a modern family. Pain? I'd text back. 0.0, temp plus 0.3, HR 41, slept 92% efficiency. Dreamed about building a sail that drinks lightning. She'd reply with a heart and eat, and I'd pad to the kitchen and eat cottage cheese like a respective monster. On the 4th evening after I woke, the outer doorbell pinged politely. I pulled on a hoodie to hide the neon mess on my head, and we went to meet whoever thought ringing first was the move. Mara stood at the gate with only Rafa this time. No hitters, no medic, no extra jawlines. She looked tired in the way people look when their job has eaten their belief but still pays on time. Danny, she said. Diana, Clark, Wendy, Bruce. She remembered our names. Points for that. We're conducting follow-ups. Randomized spot checks. I wanted to do yours personally. Wanted or assigned? I asked, leaning against the post, relaxed but ready. Both, she said, and I brought no one who can kick your door down. See? Growth. Rafa lifted a hand in a little wave. He had dark crescents under his eyes. Hi. Mom stepped forward like a wall. We were assessed. You found us ordinary. We have nothing new to report except a new lasagna recipe. Mara's smile tugged. Lasagna is above my pay grade. We'll be quick. She paused, eyes settling on my hood with curiosity that didn't stink of suspicion. You changed your hair? Seasonal, I said. She took in the courtyard's scorched circle, the faint blue sheen in the air that stubbornly clung to that patch of stone. She didn't comment. The test got a firmware update, she said instead. Version 2. Still 100% accurate. She didn't even smirk. Do you mind? I minded. I also knew refusing would be loud. I shrugged. Sure. Patio again. We did the dance. Cheek swab to nowhere. Fingertip to sensor. Wand hum. Rafa's tablet drew polite lines and tried very hard to look busy. I stood there as bright and obvious as a neon sign under my hoodie and watched the algorithm stay flat, flat, flat as if I were a rock that had not learned to sing. Civilians, Rafa murmured, half relieved, half incredulous. He glanced at Mara. She nodded, and the relief in her throat went down like water. Thank you, she said. We try not to be pests. You fail regularly, Wendy said cheerfully. Mara looked at me, and for a millimeter of a second I thought she saw, not the sword, not the sparks under scalp, but the refusal to be owned. Respect flickered, so did warning. You have a good place here, she said. Keep it that way. That's the plan, I said. They left. The door closed. Mom exhaled a breath she'd been holding since September. 2 versions of their toy, she said. Both wrong about you. Good, I said, and meant it down to marrow. Let them build smarter traps. I'll keep my feet. Later, outside, I stood under a sky that was trying very hard not to storm. I summoned the sword again and let it rest on my shoulder like a question mark that weighed 200 kilos and would kill me if I forgot what it was. I whispered into the blue, to the thing that had erased me and given me back different. We're gonna write rules. The blade hummed like a grin. My hair crackled. My body, my perfect, stubborn, fixed 200 kilos of potential, felt like a solution. No pain, no give, no apology. New Terra can keep their sermons and their 100%. I'll keep my quiet, my ridiculous symmetry, my family, my island, and my weapon made of weather. I pressed the swords flat against my palm and watched a tiny arc dance. Feel without hurt, report without fear. Welcome back, I told myself. Don't fuck it up, myself replied. Robotics expos smell like flux and optimism. 2 of my favorite stimulants. I went in low profile, cap down over the aqua lightning mess on my head, mask up because sanitation, hoodie because winter, and my very best boring civilian walk. New Terra had booths at every choke point, soft blue kiosks, friendly clipboards, scanners doing that lazy goldfish sweep that says we're 100% sure of ourselves. Cute. Hall C was a cathedral of overachievers. Everywhere I looked, exo ankles promising balance for bad knees, soft grippers that could pick up eggs and pride, surgical robots that didn't tremble, cheap servo kits with code that actually respected torque. I could have spent a week just collecting ideas for the island's labs. I demoed a tactile hand that could read Braille at human speed and grinned behind the mask. I annoyed a materials rep with too many questions about fiber layups until he tried to sell me a subscription. I vanished before a tablet could ask my government name. Then the crowd shifted around a small stage near the back, the University and Lunatics Zone. A sign said, Mass Transfer Demonstration, Weight Merge. My bones leaned toward it before my feet did. On stage, a woman in her 20s, thin as a tuning fork, hair in a messy bun, lab coat over a t-shirt that read, Do not call me a witch. In one hand, a kettlebell. In the other, a brick. Her arms trembled because physics. Hi, I'm Sam, she said into the mic. I can merge the weight of one object into another while I'm holding both. The one I choose, she lifted the brick, disintegrates. The other one gets heavier. It's permanent. No, I can't merge into people. Stop asking. She closed her eyes, breathed, and the air around her hands tightened. I saw it. Dust motes changing lanes mid-flight. She squeezed, not like strength, like decision, and the brick didn't drop or shatter. It simply stopped being here. The kettlebell dipped like someone slipped plates on when no one was looking. A good crowd whoaed. New Terra blues drifted closer like curious dolphins. Sam grinned through a gasp and did another pass, a 12 kilograms into a 20 kilograms. The 20 dipped, her knees wobbled. She caught it, face pinched, then set it down with fierce relief. Language, she told herself after a whispered fuck. Anyway, that's the thing. It only works if I hold both. I choose which goes. Volume stays the same, weight stacks. If I do it while something's moving, my brain gets mad. Don't ask for a car. Someone asked for a car. She rolled her eyes, drank water, and fielded a dozen idiot questions with patience sharpened by caffeine and spite. I watched the field lines ripple around her fingers. This wasn't magnetism. It was bookkeeping at reality's ledger. Move the entry here, zero it there. In the wrong hands, abusable. In mine, 200 kilos, a lightning blade, discipline, perfect. Tempest wanted weight. When the demo broke up, I moved to the front. I pulled my mask down just enough to show a smile and held out my hand. That was clean, I said. I'm Danny. She glanced at my hand, at my cap, at the blues, pretending not to eavesdrop, then shook. Sam. Skin contact. Interface woke like a tide switch. The world hiccuped, and an overlay slid into view. Crisp, quiet, undeniable. Contact. Power signature detected. Choice copy limits. 1 copy per individual. I thought copy the way you strike a key. 1 soft blue flash, like my hair laughing, and the shape of her ability settled into me, already filed. It didn't feel like something stolen. It felt like a schematic memorized on the first pass. My skin fizzed. My nervous system made room. Sam's fingers tightened a fraction. You good? She asked, head tipped like she'd heard a chord I hadn't played out loud. Better than good, I said, letting go. You got a minute? I want to buy you coffee and talk constraints. She side-eyed the blues. One read a pamphlet upside down. The other smiled at a baby for optics. She weighed me, then nodded. Coffee's currency. We peeled off to a stand where the barista was frothing milk like their rent depended on foam density. I paid. We took the awkward end table. We talked mechanics. Volume stays constant, she said, tapping the air. Weight stacks. If I merge mid-swing, the world chooses a frame. If I don't agree, I get a headache. The thing that goes, no dust, no ash. It's not burned, it's just not here anymore. Permanent, I said. Permanent, she echoed, proud and a little sad. Grip limited? I asked. Absolutely, she said, flexing her slim hands. I'm not strong. If I can't hold both, I can't do the thing. And if I push too many merges in a row, I get the flu for a day. I filed it. In me, the copy had those limits. Fine. The constraint wasn't a bug, it was a governor I could train around. We swapped notes on servo tolerances and sensor latency because that's foreplay where I'm from. I slid her a card with a number and Danny Island. She smirked. That's not ominous. It's branding, I said. If you ever want to do research that doesn't end with a doctrine and a pamphlet, call me. She looked at the blues again, then pocketed the card. Take care, Danny. You too, I said, and meant it. I ghosted out a side exit, dodged a roaming kiosk offering free civic harmonization, and hit the water hard. The boat split the sea like a zipper. The island lifted its head like a dog who knows the sound of your engine. Text to Bruce. Got something. Courtyard. 4 24 kilograms bells. Sandbox. Tell Mom I'm going to be careful. Reply. Mom says define careful. Second reply. Hurry. The courtyard was set. 4 kettlebells sat in a line on the sand like smug punctuation. Bruce perched on the wall, peeling a banana. Dad had a notebook out, because of course he did. Wendy had tea, and that look she gets when she knows the harvest will be good. Mom folded her arms, channeling battle nurse and storm goddess in equal measure. Explain, she said, not unkind, not patient. OnTouch interface offered me a single choice. Copy, I said. 1 copy per person. The copy keeps the original constraints. No mysterious upgrades. The limiter is me, my grip, my head, my decisions. I want to merge these bells into Tempest permanently, so I can train with an anvil that insists. Under what conditions? Dad asked, pen poised. Controlled increments, I said. Full stop checks between merges. If anything reads weird on my dashboard, thermal, alignment, microtier rate, I stop. If Mom twitches, I stop. Damn right, Mom said. I summoned Tempest. The blade rode itself into the air with that rude elegance only lightning gets away with. Grip grounded to my palm like a handshake I'd earned. The hum nested in my ribs. My hair stitched little blue threads into the air between us. Left hand, 24 kilograms. Right hand, Tempest. The new ability hung on its hook, waiting for decision. You go, I told the bell quietly. I turned to the blade. You take it. Field lines bunched around my hands. The bell's weight stood up and saluted to me in a language that felt like math. I chose. The bell ceased. Tempest deepened, not longer, not larger, just more, and my body took the extra 24 kilograms like a trained animal taking a new harness. Dashboard, 24 kilograms. Tissue engagement, plus 12%. Alignment good. 1 breath. 2. A slow figure 8 in the sand to make sure the world and I agreed. The edge drew blue lines the air respected. Second, I said, and the next bell disappeared. Plus 48 kilograms. The sword insisted harder. My stance widened. My elbow dropped 2 degrees because my dashboard likes correctness. Thermal plus 0.2 degrees Celsius. Fine. Third, 72 kilograms. Fourth, plus 96 kilograms. Tempest now pressed the world with nearly 300 kilos of opinion, and we negotiated beautifully. No panic, no pain. Total adaptation fed me angles and timing like captions. I set the flat to my forearm, let the mass seed into bone, felt everything work. Enough, Mom said, and my dashboard agreed, which is convenient for family peace. I rested the tip in the sand. It sank an inch and told the earth who was boss. What's it called? Bruce asked, eyes glinting. Tempest, I said, tasting the name. The blade hummed like approval. My hair crackled. Of course, Newterra would still call me a civilian. Their 100% can kiss my neon head. The blues will smile. The doctrine will doctrine. The world will try to get tidy again. Me? I've got a lightning storm that weighs what I weigh when I ask it to, and now a way to make it insist until I'm stronger than any problem that dares my door. I spun the blade once, slow, respectful, then dismissed it. It went the way it comes, like a decision. Dinner, Mom said, eyes still on my hands. Then you can go teach your anvil to dance. Yes, ma'am, I said, grinning like a criminal with tenure. Happy Plunder Day. I didn't ask permission. I sent Mom and Wendy to the mainland with a prepaid spa day and a threat to the staff that if they let either of them check the news, I'd buy the building and turn it into a biceps museum. Dad understood before I spoke. Bruce grinned like trouble. The island purred because it loves when I make bad ideas behave. Plan, make Tempest weigh 500 kilograms. Permanent. No takebacks. Train with it until my body and I agree on new definitions of possible. Tempest hummed into my hand on the first try, blue, alive, smug. My hair answered with little aqua sparks, polite as cats that only scratch your enemies. The sword still felt like me, only louder. Inventory, Bruce said, waving his phone like a clipboard. We'd prepped the courtyard. A line of iron and ugly weights, a sandbox, chalk so thick the air tasted like a gym, a chalkboard on the wall with big dumb numbers. 10 times 24 kilograms bells, 10 times 20 kilogram plates, 8 times 15 kilogram plates, 12 times 10 kilograms plates, 20 times 5 kilogram pucks, 12 times 2.5 kilogram slevers, 20 times 1 kilogram biscuits, 6 times 30 kilograms lead ingots, my contribution, don't ask. All legit, all sacrificial. The rule of Sam's mass transfer, now my copy, was clear. I had to hold both objects, one in each hand. Choose the victim. Add its weight to Tempest. Permanent ledger entry. I weighed 200 kilos. Tempest, after last time, sat just under 300. The day would end with it at 500, or with me a smear in the sand and a very awkward phone call to a spa. Either way, the ledger would be clean. Hard cap plan? Dad asked, pencil ready. 500, I said. No more today. I'll live with it, train with it, then decide if we go insane later. He nodded. No sermon. This is why I love him. He trusts my math even when my math is a prayer. Start at 10s, I told Bruce. If anything twitches weird on my dashboard, I stop. My nervous system doesn't do pain anymore, but it does data. Load, alignment, tissue strain rates, temperatures, joint pressures. It's like having a crew chief in my bones. They don't scream. They brief. I chalked my hands, grabbed a 10 kilograms plate with my left, Tempest in my right. You go, I told the plate. Yes, I talked to iron. Mind your business. I decided. Field lines bunched around my hands. The plate winked out. Tempest deepened in my grip without growing a millimeter. Plus 10 kilograms. Dashboard. Tissue engagement, 4%. All green. Another 10. Plus 20. Another. 30. Tempest felt heavier, yes, but more than that, it felt denser, like inertia remembered my name. The blade's hum sank half a note. My stance widened a hair. I adjusted my elbow 3 degrees because the dashboard likes pedantry. We moved up. 20s. I said. The first 20 kilograms plate evaporated and the sword told the earth to pay attention. Plus 50 cumulative. The flat against my forearm pressed apology-free. My joints reported perfectly. No alarm, all information. Again, plus 70. Again, 90. Again, plus 110. By plus 150, my core braced like a skyscraper. Sweat started because sweat is honest. I wasn't hurting. I was working. Check-in? Dad asked, voice low. Thermal plus 0.5 degrees Celsius. Micro-tear rate normal. Grip at 82%. Alignment clean. Continue. Continue, he echoed, pencil scratching like a metronome. We added the lead ingots at 30 kilograms apiece. They felt like guilt in my left hand. I merged one. Tempest didn't sway. It settled, weight announcing itself down the chain of bone and intent. Fuck, that's pretty, Bruce breathed, watching the way the sand whispered under my feet as the mass wrote its name. We kept going. Bells, plates, ingots. Between merges, I moved the sword through tight, controlled cuts, figure eights, low guards, passing the blade from side to side on invisible rails. The trick with mass isn't fighting it. It's agreeing with it in advance so it doesn't have a reason to argue. At 420 kilograms cumulative, the world started to get loud. Not pain. Information density. I could feel vertebrae compress and recover. I could feel tendons lay down reinforcement while still under load. I could feel microfractures appear in cortical bone and be sealed before I finished the breath. Total adaptation loves a project. Without pain to bias me toward cowardice or bravado, I could just do the work. 2 more 30s, I said. My left hand shook, not with fear, but with math. I merged them. 480 kilograms. Last steps, Dad said quietly. He wasn't telling me what to do. He was agreeing that the numbers were numbers. The 10s and 5s became my staircase to 500. I merged one. 490, another, 495. 2 2.5s, cute as buttons. 500 kilograms. The number sat in my chest like an extra heartbeat. I breathed. The blade pressed my forearm like a mountain that had learned manners. My feet dug a hair deeper into sand. My whole body sang. Not some bullshit mystic chorus, not adrenaline. Systems in agreement. The hum of Tempest settled into the frequency of my bones. Danny, Bruce said softly, awed and a little scared. Good. Fear is a seatbelt. Here's your line, I said and moved. First drill, isometric holds. Tip down in the sand at a shallow angle, core lit, lats engaged, wrists straight, elbows soft. I held until my dashboard started to tick up thermal and my breath told the truth. 30 seconds. 45. 60. No shake, no panic, just effort climbing a ladder. Second drill, low guard carries. Sword at hip height, edge forward, walking a 10-meter line like a drunk acrobat with a piano. The sand protested and then forgave. Every step demanded my ribs, glutes, and even my stupid toes behave. I set it down, recovered, did it again. Third drill, slow cuts. Quarter-speed figure eights with perfect mechanics. If I cheated a degree, I felt it. Not pain, drag. The blade tugged like a teacher tapping a ruler. No, here, I corrected. The drag vanished. Reward. Fourth, isometric mid-guard. Then overhead lockouts for 2 counts that would have wrecked my joints a month ago. Now the joints reported load like professionals and let the tissues do their jobs. Fifth, sits and stands with the tip planted. Basically bowed squats. Letting 500 kilos preach down the column of me while I controlled every millimeter. My quads wrote poems. My spine negotiated a treaty with gravity and signed with flourish. Training at this edge with no pain is dangerous in a new way. You don't have suffering to scare you straight. You have to be mean and precise. So I watched my dashboards. I listened to breath cadence. I kept rest honest. And when the voice that isn't a voice, the one that's adaptation plus whatever angry saint lives in my marrow, whispered break to build, I obeyed. I pushed past neat failure. I embraced structural failure. On the 9th low guard carry, I felt the left biceps tendon say nope and let go with a sound I got as sensation and data. Rupture, distal, 7mm gap. No pain. Just a cold label. I set Tempest's tip down, breathed, watched the dashboard switch into repair mode like a pit crew. Heat rose in the tissue, cells flooded, fibers braided, reattached. I flexed, clean tracking, stronger alignment vectors across the scar. The system learns. Jesus, Bruce whispered, both hands on his head. Science, I said, and walked the line again. On the 3rd set of sits and stands, I let the axial load win on purpose. Vertebral discs compressed past their polite limits. Something cracked, not panic, just structure giving way so it could be rebuilt. The dashboard went white with work. I stood still, breathed like a metronome, and let my body rewrite itself while under the quiet of the sword's mass. The new tissue laid down denser, smarter. My posture clicked half a degree into a place it had never been. Tall without effort. I opened a slice along my forearm with the edge, deliberate, 3 centimeters, just to confirm the obvious. The skin parted like well-behaved curtain, blood welled, then the lips met, the threads tugged, the color normalized. No pain. Full awareness. No drama. Done. "Fuck me," Bruce said, voice somewhere between worship and nausea. "Not on my to-do list," I grinned, then tucked back into tempo cuts up, across, down, recover. Counted out loud to keep the metronome honest. 4 up, 2 hold, 4 down. 500 kilos taught my obliques a new religion. Hours passed in intervals measured by the sun's angle and my own breath. Dad called time when my dashboard hit a thermal threshold and refused to budge with water. I set Tempests flat across my thighs, sat on the stone edge, and let the hum play through me like a tuning fork finally satisfied. No pain. No remorse. Just the quiet certainty you get when you do the fucking work, and the ledger agrees. "Permanent," I said to the blue blade. 500, you and me. The sword thrummed like approval. We ate on the patio. Dad put steak on my plate until the plate complained. Bruce narrated my sets like a sportscaster high on electrolytes. I drank water until the horizon blurred and then clarified again. The island settled around us, pleased and a little smug. When the stars were loud enough to count, I went back out alone. No spotter, no commentary, just me, the ocean, the sand, the sword that now weighed a quarter of a car and still felt like destiny when I held it right. I planted the tip in the sand and leaned on the grip, forehead to the pommel. My hair threw little blue sparks that climbed and died on the metal that isn't metal. I disintegrated, I told the sea. I came back. I don't feel pain anymore, so I'm done babying this body. You hear me? I will break it on purpose and will build something that doesn't blink. The sea approved by not arguing. I pulled the sword free and did one last slow figure 8. Perfect form, no drag. The 500 moved like an answer. I racked it, if you can call dismissing lightning a rack, and watched it vanish like a secret. Inside, I showered until steam turned the glass to milk, then stood naked in front of the mirror and stared at the man who is not a man the way he used to be. 200 kilos, not bulky, but drawn. Cables under skin, joints clean, angles honest. Aqua hair throwing lazy static like a halo with jokes. No bruises, no cuts. Plenty of work etched into posture and breath. Mom texted a heart from the spa and a selfie with cucumber slices over her eyes and a middle finger up because genetics is a prankster. I sent back a thumbs up and a picture of a steak the size of a book. Then I lay on my back, closed my eyes, and let the island hum me to sleep while my body did what it loves now, keep everything and make it better. Tomorrow, Tempest and I are going to dance uglier. Then cleaner. Then uglier again. That's the loop. That's the point. No pain, no breaks, all precision. And if something snaps on the way, good. We'll build the fix into the chassis and move the line forward. Permanent. Movie night. All of us piled on the big sectional like we were auditioning for a furniture ad. Mom with a throw blanket even though it wasn't cold. Dad pretending he didn't like the popcorn but eating half of it. Wendy with her tea anchored on a saucer like a ship's wheel. Bruce sprawled sideways, taking up 3 seats and not apologizing. Me in the corner, 200 kilos of calm, pretending I wasn't cataloging exits and load paths in the ceiling. The ocean breathed. The island purred. Tempest lay dismissed, a decision away. Then the world changed its mind. It started as a pressure in my teeth, the sub-bass of something disrespectful. The window glass flexed inward like it wanted to be forgiven. Every drone on the perimeter pinged at once. My HUD wrote a single line in the corner of my vision. Anomaly, rift detected. Vector SSW, range 5.2 kilometers, diameter 245 kilometers. My brain helpfully supplied the map overlay. The hole was the size of fucking Sicily, 5 kilometers off my south-southwest shoreline, where there should be water and fish and a very chill turtle. Instead, the ocean just fell away in a circle, a mouth in the world, and from it came shapes that made evolution look like a joke we told at lunch. They looked like demons because our brains are lazy and need a category fast when panic hits. Horns, not horns. Joints where joints shouldn't be. Teeth as punctuation. Color like bruises learned to walk. They hit the water and didn't slow. The first wave climbed air like it was a suggestion. The second wave went through it like it was a rumor. I stood, the couch complaining. Pause, I told the projector. The movie froze on a character about to make a dumb decision. The universe decided to match the theme. The perimeter cams fed me angles. 50 of them peeled off the swarm and saw my island the way a knife sees a fruit. Speed, obscene. Trajectories, straight lines with contempt for obstacles. They were on us in seconds, moving with the kind of predatory certainty that says, we have done this before, and it worked. Inside now, I said, and we were already in, which is very funny in a gallows way. I meant the inner core, the bunker with the slit doors and the plates that don't care about small explosions. We didn't make it. 50 fell from the sky like punctuation marks, and the house cratered. There's a sound stone makes when it remembers it used to be sand. There's a sound steel makes when it realizes it's about to be modern art against its will. There's a sound a mother makes when a wall leans in toward her children. All of those happened at once. The roof came down and the floor came up, and we existed in a bad geometry problem. Somewhere in the white noise of destruction, I called for Tempest, pure reflex, and the world answered in blue. Everything stopped. Not slowed, not syrup, stopped. The dust froze mid-bloom, little planets waiting for orbit. The shards of glass hung like a crystal chandelier on strike. The demons were statues in a museum of blasphemy. A claw the size of my forearm hovered a handspan from Wendy's cheek. A slab of concrete paused, unsure if it should occupy my father's ribcage. No sound, no breath. Every system read 0, except the ones inside me that belonged to something rude and bright. I couldn't move. Panic tried to climb my throat and found the door locked. I was a mind in a pinned body, a thought in amber. My eyes were open because mercy. I could see Mom's hand mid-flight toward Bruce's shoulder. Dad's jaw set in a line that said he would lift a building with his spine if the math agreed. Bruce, with all his stupid courage, frozen into a reach for Wendy's wrist. The projector beam was a straight line of dust diamonds, halted. It was beautiful. If you're the kind of idiot who can see beauty in a car crash you haven't had yet. Tempest spoke. Not in words, in structure. In the space where my interface lives, a second panel opened, old as storms and new as my last breath. Temporal severance, local agency, Tempest, condition, one-time action available offer, absorb designated loved ones into the blade. Consciousness, preserved. Time perception, 0. Status, inviolate. Indefinite separation until sufficient power is gathered to safely release. Constraints, one time, now or never. No partial release, no visits, no messages. Method, lightning conduit. Consent, your choice. My heart would have hammered if the concept of hammering had permission. Instead, a cold clarity spread from sternum to scalp. One time. If I said no, the world would unpause and 50 nightmares would finish their sentence with my family's names in it. If I said yes, my family would be safe and gone, folded into blue steel and patience, their minds asleep in a room without clocks, while I figured out how to become a generator big enough to buy them back. I tried to move. Couldn't. Only the thought was free. Rage came first. The kind that tastes like coin and old blood. How dare you? To the whole, to the demons, to the laws of whatever is sacred here that let this be a choice. Then the math shoved rage aside because rage doesn't rebuild houses. I looked at each of them in turn. Mom with her blanket and her impossible spine, eyes wide and bright and goddamn brave, even frozen. Dad with his soldier's grammar and his posture. Wendy with that little half-smile like she'd been waiting her whole life for the universe to try her and she'd prepared a witty remark. Bruce, loud and loyal and already moving when time stopped, because of course he was. I'm sorry, I said inside myself, and the words were as dry as a blueprint and as wet as the ocean. I love you. I'll get you back. I swear it. Tempest didn't hurry me. The sword isn't kind. It's respectful. It had given me a choice and paused a planet to let me make it. Do it, I told the blue. Save them. The answer wasn't sound. It was weather. Lightning unfurled from nowhere, from the blade that wasn't in my hand and was in everything I am, a web of aqua-white threads stitching through the frozen room. It didn't touch the demons. It didn't touch me. It went to them. It kissed Mom's hand first because the universe has a sense of theater. The spark slid from her fingertips up her wrist, her forearm, across her shoulder and into her chest. Not a burn, not heat, an inscription. Lines of light wrote themselves along her nerves, her bones, her blood. For a heartbeat that didn't tick, she was a constellation in the shape of my mother. Then the lines collapsed inward with a soft, hungry pop, and she was gone, not vanished into the air like Sam's bricks. But my interface insisted, within. Dad next. The lightning found all the places he's held strength his whole life and traced them with a tenderness that made my throat close. He went like a soldier saluting a better idea. Gone. Safe. Asleep in a blade that weighs half a metric ton and hums like home. Wendy laughed. Frozen face. But the lightning carried it anyway, like it remembered a thing from a second that hadn't resumed. The lines wrote her like a poem. Gone. Contained. Untouchable by teeth and claws and bureaucrats. Bruce tried to flip off the storm while time was locked. The lightning took the gesture like a signature, like fuck you and good night, and tucked him away with the rest of my heart. 4 threads snapped back into Tempest. I felt the blade's weight pull. Not more kilograms, a gravity of meaning. The hum dropped half an octave. The courtyard, the island, the sea, everything held its breath even harder, which is impressive when breath is a metaphor. The panel in my vision updated. Absorption complete occupants. 4. State preserved. Time perception 0. Release locked. Requires power surge beyond current capacity. Note, this action will not be offered again. Good, I thought savagely. Once is all you get. I would have cried if crying didn't require moving. Instead, I memorized the room like a crime scene in a chapel, the angle of the collapsed beam, the specific way the dust haloed an overturned bowl, the demon claw suspended a whisper from a photograph of us from a summer when Bruce was still shorter than me. I packed it away, not as grief, but as a list of debts. Resume, I told Tempest. The universe obeyed. Sound returned like a slap. The slab finished its fall into empty space, because no ribcage lived there now. The claw scythed air and found only the frame of a picture. The demons screamed like broken translations. The dust billowed. The house finished cratering. I moved. No pain, just work. I twisted, shoved a beam aside like it wronged me, and stood into a room that had stopped being a room. 50 faces that weren't faces turned toward me in the same motion, like a choir of knives. I didn't reach for Tempest. I didn't have to. She wasn't a thing I held, she was a thing that held. But I summoned her anyway, because I am old-fashioned about conversations that end in blood. Blue wrote itself into my hand with that rude elegance I crave. 500 kilograms of weather and promise, humming like an engine I built out of anger and love. 4 lives slept within, inviolate, untouchable, mine to earn back when I became something large enough to pay the bill. I set my feet in the ruined living room of the home I built with stubborn hands. I looked at the 50 nightmares who had come from a hole the size of Sicily to eat what I love. Bad fucking choice, I told them, and the sword laughed in my bones. Then I went to work.